Welcome into Wrestling Spotlight. We're on the Wrestling Spotlight Network and also the Fired Up Network. Gerald Bentley, and I'm joined by one of our most popular guests in the station's history, the Misfortune Teller herself, Gypsy Mac. Gypsy, thanks for coming back in. We've been following you as you recover from a pretty devastating injury. Let me just pop this up here.
Oh no.
There's a line now. It's crazy. There's a look at what happened. How are you feeling? And thanks for coming back on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. That made me really happy that the guests liked me because I enjoy talking to you, so it was fun last time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let the fans know how are you doing? How are you coming back from the injury? And even a little bit, what happened? What was the cause?
So I'll start from the beginning on kind of what happened.
Sure.
I went back home to Albuquerque for Thanksgiving to go, see family. And my original trainer, Gino Rivera with OTR, is out there. So I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I'll get some training in while I'm here. So we were going over a new move that I was wanting to do. And he was like, oh, let's do like a baseball slide. Did it fine 5, 6 times. Come like the seventh, eighth time, I try and do it. And I don't know if fatigue just set in or what happened, but when I went through his legs, my left ankle caught his leg. So my leg
Oh,
just snapped.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I mean, here you're seeing it on a national level right now. Mercedes Mone, the
Oh,
former
yeah.
Sasha Banks, your new CEO in AEW, she just made her comeback from a injury that's quite similar to what you've been going through, and it wasn't any move that when you saw it you'd say, "Oh yeah, wow, I could see where that injury happened." It wasn't like Darby Allin's injury recently on AEW, where when you watch the replay, you go, "Oh,
You're like, yeah,
man,
that
yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely, that makes sense. Look at it, he folded his foot right over." And sometimes it just happens, and there's nothing that you really can do or prep for it.
Yeah, especially it happening in training is kind of crazy because it wasn't even in front of like a live audience. I was just practicing something, and of course that's when it happened to me. But actually the injury that I have doing like the baseball slide between the legs, it's pretty common for people to like break their ankle with that.
Hmm. Well, that makes sense because it's a common injury in baseball. That's why they changed the size of the bases
Yeah, we're not
recently
doing it
because
anymore.
yeah, no, it's probably a good idea. So, what has the rehab process been like? Because obviously there's a difference between what Mercedes Moné went through in New Japan Wrestling, and then as it turns out, she's been signed by AEW for several months and has all the best doctors in the world. How hard is it as a independent wrestler to do that rehab and get the injury, get the surgery done, and get yourself back into the ring?
Well, for me, it was especially hard because I live in Nevada now. I'm from New Mexico, and my health insurance is still in New Mexico. So I
Mm,
had to do everything out in Albuquerque. So I was constantly like, I had to travel, stay out there for about 8 weeks after my surgery, just so that way
really?
I can meet up with doctors and stuff. Yeah, it was easier than me coming back to Vegas, driving back to New Mexico every couple of weeks. So I just stayed with my family out there, and then moving back to Vegas after staying in New Mexico for the first half of my rehab, I've just been going to the gym, doing like physical therapy stuff. I was finally able to get in the ring 2 weeks ago. So that's
That's
the little
progress.
light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
So this is probably right after the break, huh?
Yeah. So that night we had to go to the emergency room, and that was maybe at like 3 in the morning. We were there from 7 until like 3 in the morning.
Mm.
Yeah.
So now you're pretty much 100%, right? You're getting really close. You're saying you're back
We'll
in the
say like
ring and
80.
80%. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, because I know you were building up a lot of momentum here. You got in there against the Fallen Goddess Athena, your Ring of Honor heavyweight champion. So you're you're right there on the verge of taking that next step. What goes into doing the rehab to planning a comeback? How hard is that to, kind of orchestrate and navigate that path?
For me, it kind of just happened. They've been saying like 6 months is the general time to come back to wrestling. So I've been doing everything in my power to make sure I get to that 6 month mark. And I kind of just pulled the trigger and I booked a match for May 4th in Arizona. So that's going to be my first
Oh,
match
there we
back.
go.
Yeah.
And do you know who you're going to be going up against?
I don't. It's at Party Hard Wrestling out there in Arizona. So
Okay.
that one, I'm not too sure. It's up in the air. It could be crazy. It could be anyone, literally.
Well, and you've wrestled with that promotion in the past. I mean, there's a nice little, basically a circuit developing with Arizona, Nevada, and even getting into Utah and New Mexico now.
Yeah, it seems like wrestling in the Southwest region has really blew up, especially in New Mexico, which is really crazy to me because I moved because there was no wrestling. And then now
Yeah.
that I'm gone, there's like three promotions, four promotions that are there now, of course. But I got to go back home for Dante King, my boyfriend. He's a
Hmm.
wrestler as well here in Nevada. He had a match in New Mexico for a new promotion out there called Phase One, and they did really, really well. They sold out, like, there was standing room only. And at one point, they were turning people away. So
Oh,
it
that's
looks
awesome.
like, yeah, wrestling in New Mexico is starting to boom, and GCW's going there, which is insane.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I'm glad to see that New Mexico wrestling is picking up.
Well, you're really seeing, and I've been speaking with different guests here on Wrestling Spotlight on our weekly champions segment. Uh, the writer from Pro Wrestling Post talked with a old wrestler who was active during the territory days with World Championship Wrestling from Georgia back when that was on the Superstation. And they're both saying that it's really almost a new golden age where you're really seeing the territory system coming back together, especially with the NWA formerly adding territories now. They have Cleveland, they have the Southeast, they have Chicago. How do you feel being active, uh, prominent, high level independent wrestler and being able to do it now with so many opportunities?
It's really cool to see what's happening with wrestling because when I started in 2019 is when I started training and I was in the business. It seemed
Hmm.
like wrestling was getting to that point where like everyone was like, "Oh yeah, I love wrestling." And for a long time there people were like kind of like ashamed to say that they watched wrestling and everyone
Sure.
was talking about it all the time. COVID hit and it seemed like everything went downhill again and we were kind of starting back from like square one. A lot of promotions weren't running, so it seems like now that wrestling is taking over, everyone's like, okay, we got to keep pushing it before something happens and it magically goes away again.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a case, and it is an election year. You hear this question all the time. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I think almost universally, anyone in the world of professional wrestling has to say yes.
Oh, yeah. Like there's so much now in Vegas alone. I think there's close to six, maybe seven promotions. I might be forgetting a
Hmm.
couple that run. But, and then like in New Mexico, there's a lot. Utah's popping up new ones. It's just crazy that there's so much no matter where you go. And it's also a little bit more obtainable and achievable as an indie wrestler because now you're like, oh, I don't have to drive 10 hours to go wrestle somewhere and
Sure.
get exposure and get those like reps under my belt. Now you can do it at home and you don't have to kill yourself to be able to do it now.
What how much does the social media channels and the availability of getting your message out there? I know you really make a great effort to tell your story online with Instagram, with Twitter, and Dante's got a good presence online as well. How much do those social media tools help? Because that's something that really hadn't been used that much. And since 2019, I think people really dove in hard on it during COVID. There's a huge, huge universe of pro wrestling on Instagram, on X, Twitter, Facebook.
I think the social media really helps because for me, like when I started, there was nothing in New Mexico, right? So I
Mhm.
wasn't going to get the chance to wrestle anywhere unless I put myself out there. And social media has always been something that I liked. When I was a teenager, I was huge on MySpace and I wanted to be an influencer. So being a
Sure.
wrestler, I was like, well, I kind of am an influencer now. So I
Mhm.
kind of just take advantage of that. And it's given me a lot of opportunities. I've been able to go to Miami, to South Dakota, just kind of all over the US because of social media.
Well, and just getting your story out there, getting your message out there. You have a unique presentation too. The Misfortune Teller has a great ring to it and just a little bit different.
I appreciate that. I try hard to, kind of make myself unique and have a niche because although it's great that wrestling is popping off right now, it's also hard because before I was like one of the very few girls in like 4 states. So I was always like, "Oh, there's this booking, I'm busy all the time." But now
Sure.
wrestling's so much more popular. There's so many more wrestlers that you kind of have to like stay active and stay on top of everything because that's who's going to get the bookings, that's who's going to get seen everywhere. Because if not, like if you're not on top of social media, if you're not on top of promoting yourself, those opportunities are going to go to someone else who works harder.
Yeah, I mean it's a grind. You're always selling, right? And
Oh yeah.
look in Las Vegas. We cover independent wrestling around the country. Rochelle Riveter, the MOM,
I love her.
who has a similar story. Yeah, no, she's great. Similar story. She started training in Rocky Mountain Pro, was the only woman in the promotion that was regularly appearing. She moved to Las Vegas in part to get more into the mix. Now she's going all around the country. You have Maserati and Brittany Brooks is appearing everywhere around the country. That's got to make you feel good because you don't even have to look that far. Just right there in your home market, there's three women that are just killing it on the independent scene right now.
Yeah, it's really awesome to see, especially Brittany. She when she first started, she kind of had a similar story to me. I tore my ACL when I first started the business, and something similar happened to her. So it's
Hmm.
really cool to see her come back from that and make such a big name for herself. I see her like literally everywhere across the US. And again, social media, I think like has a big part to play on that because she's so
Sure.
active about getting her brand out there.
Yeah. And it just opens up so many doors. And, you know, while we have you on here, I wanted to get your opinion. How do you feel as a professional wrestler when you see a whole show for one of the top two companies in the country themed with a incoming female wrestler as the basis of it? AEW had big business, and it wasn't a terribly well hidden secret that the big business was the debut of Mercedes Mone, and they had a packed house at the TD Garden, an NBA arena. That's got to tell something about the strength of women's pro wrestling right now.
Oh yeah, like women's wrestling is on fire. Like there's so many people that come up to me at the end of shows that are like, "Oh, I'm so happy that women were on the card because usually we go and it's nothing but guys." And women bring such a different variety to the show and being in the business for the last couple of years has really sucked because I've seen everything shift and I would fight to be like, "Hey, we need more than one women's match on the card like just
Sure.
because we have a champion, she shouldn't be the only one that gets a shot. There's so many other women that deserve to put on the same matches better than men or the same caliber or even against men." So it's really cool to see women's wrestling evolve because, back in the 90s, the early 2000s, we were just an object. And now we're
Hmm.
like, no, we can wrestle. We're one of you guys.
Now we're coming up on the biggest wrestling weekend of the year, WrestleMania week. We're going to be in Philadelphia for Wrestling Spotlight for Fired Up Network.
Nice.
Yeah, and wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've been following it. How do you feel about the women's matches coming up WrestleMania weekend? Do you see, just to go through the two that are already known, Bailey, fresh off of her win at the Royal Rumble, do you see Bailey being able to take the title away from Damage Control and EO Sky?
I do. I've seen like this whole thing kind of coming to fruition for a while. But the only thing that threw me off was I was expecting Dakota Kai to turn on Bailey at WrestleMania.
Hmm.
So them doing a little bit sooner, now I'm like, something's gonna happen because now she has all of them against her. Like she has no one. So I'm very interested to see where that's gonna go. But I think Bailey's gonna take it home. I think it's her time to shine.
Okay. The other big match, the man, Becky Lynch, fresh off of a visit to the White House on St. Patrick's Day. She's got her book coming out. She is going up against mommy herself, Rhea Ripley. How do you feel about Becky Lynch against Rhea?
I'm really excited for this match. This is my top 2 that I wanna see for WrestleMania weekend. I'm
Okay.
a huge Rhea Ripley fan. She's my dream opponent. I love mommy. But I also really like Becky Lynch. When I first started getting back into WWE, she was one of the ones that I got drawn to a lot. So I think this is gonna be a really good match for both women, but
Mhm.
mommy's always on top, so I know she's gonna take that title home.
Now, is it time to go ahead and acknowledge that Rhea Ripley is one of the most popular figures in the WWE and start kind of sagging her over to the good side of the ledger?
It's crazy because Rhea's huge everywhere. Like, non-wrestling fans know who Rhea Ripley is, and that's awesome.
Hmm.
So, super excited for that, but I don't know. I feel like something's gonna happen with Judgment Day.
Little breakup, maybe.
Yeah, I think Finn Balor's gonna do something, and JD McDonough's gonna have his back because 'cause they're slime balls. So,
Okay, I can see that.
yeah,
Well, and really, Rhea doesn't have to change that much. If you go back into the history of the WWE, Stone Cold Steve Austin really didn't change much from being a heel to being a face.
that is true.
Really, the biggest thing that changed is who he wrestled.
Yeah, I feel like Rhea can still keep this attitude no matter what they do with her. She, like you said, very like badass baby face if she was to change. But I don't know, I like what they're doing with her little heel persona, even though she gets cheered all the time.
Hmm. Now, how about a couple of the other women in the WWE? Do you see a impact coming from Jade Cargill?
I forget that she's there
I know, I think a lot of
sometimes.
people do. She's had
But
one appearance.
I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with her. It's definitely gonna change the landscape. I think her and Bianca would have a really, really good first feud for her. I
Yeah.
think that's something that should happen. But yeah, I think she's gonna do really good. I'm excited to see what they're keeping her away for too for so long. She's been like a hidden little secret for a while.
Yeah, I thought that was coming too. I thought we'd see Bianca Belair against Jade Cargill. We still could.
Maybe SummerSlam?
Yeah, no, it's coming up in Cleveland, my hometown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Now, let's go ahead while we're rattling through them. How do you feel about Mercedes Monet and her impact? Are you ready to see
It's
her and Willow Nightingale?
I wasn't expecting her to go to AEW. I don't follow like a lot of the dirt sheet things that tell you where people are and stuff,
Hmm.
like I'm a big fan of the surprise. So I was shocked because I thought she was going to come back to WWE, help out Bailey. Bailey wins the title at WrestleMania, right? Big
Sure.
brain. No. So her going to AEW, it's going to be really cool to see her with different women because she's been in the WWE for so long that we haven't gotten Mercedes versus Deonna Purrazzo
Sure.
or like Willow and Mercedes. So it's going to be really exciting to see her style against these different people on AEW.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be interesting, and it is a little bit different. And I agree with you because a lot of the reports were saying she was going to go back, especially after Trinity Naomi went back, her tag team partner.
See, that's what I was expecting. I was
Hmm.
expecting the three of them to come together, take down Damage Control, but my writing dreams are ruined, I guess
Well,
now.
but no, you may still be on the right path. Maybe Naomi is the one who goes to give some backup to Bailey.
Maybe that'll be good. She needs someone because boy,
Yeah, yeah, could be.
4 against 1.
Hey, how about a personal grudge for you having been able to face her? Does Athena hold on to the Ring of Honor Women's Championship on WrestleMania weekend? They're going to be having their card on April 5th, the Friday night. She's taking on Hikaru Shida, three-time AEW World Champion.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. That one's an interesting one because I feel like it could go both ways.
Hmm.
It's such a big weekend that it would be a shock if Athena lost, and it would be a good time to kind of change things around before the summer. But I can also
Sure.
see her just retaining it for a really long time. She's tribal chief.
Yeah, she's had an amazing run. If you have to get it on Honor Club because you don't see much of it on AEW television, but she's had over a year-long run as the champion.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see her put that title like at the pedigree that it needs to be at.
Hmm. Now, just as we're kind of winding it down here, I know you're coming back in May, so you have a whole month to kind of get ready for it. What's the process now? What's a week of workouts look like for Gypsy Mac right now?
So right now I'm in the ring about 2 days a week because I'm still trying to get like a feel for everything. But April, we're buckling down and it's going to be crazy. I'm going to be in the ring at least 3, maybe 4 times a week to get where I need to. I'm in the gym right now 5 to 6 times a week, just focusing on strength because coming back from a leg injury and having a previous ACL injury, my wrestling style has to kind of change a little
Sure.
bit. I love the lucha stuff, the high flying stuff, but we can only pull that out every once in a while.
Hmm.
So I am focusing on strength and being able to throw people around. That's what I'm excited for when I come back.
Well, if you follow Gypsy on Instagram or on X, you can see that there has been a lot of work on the arms.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Been
But yeah,
trying.
you got to
Yeah.
move to the submission and the ground and pound attack, right?
Which is fine. I love actually doing that stuff at training. Like that's what I always do a lot of is the groundwork and I like jujitsu and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So it's a different side of me that no one has ever really seen before. So it'll be fun. It'll be different.
Now, where can the viewers here on Wrestling Spotlight and Fired Up Network find you on the social medias?
So I am on Instagram as the Gypsy Mac. I am also on X, Twitter,
Hmm.
as a Gypsy Mac as well. I do have a TikTok and I have a YouTube. I'm not very active. I'm trying to get better on TikTok, but these videos, man, I don't know. I just can't do it. It's too much work for me.
The editing is what gets you.
I get annoyed with the sound and like having to like match it up. I'm like, I can't do it. If I could pay someone to edit my videos for me, that's the key.
Oh, there's plenty of services that do it. They'll be
Yeah.
contacting you. Sure. Well, hey, let's get to the championship round. Just a few quick questions and wind it down. First, what's your goal for 2024 now that you're going to be back in the ring?
My goal for 2024 is to go international. Don't care where, Japan, Mexico, Canada. I just need to get out of the USA.
Okay, great goal. Almost everyone says Japan is the ultimate goal, so I'm sure that would be a,
Japan.
a great
I love
trip, a
Japan.
little trip up to stardom. How about, I think you kind of answered it already, go ahead and give me your favorite two women's wrestlers right now.
Rhea Ripley, of course. We love
Hmm.
Rhea Ripley. Um, this one's a toss-up. It's hard. I'm gonna go with her because she's back. I love Solruga
Okay,
on NXT. She's so good. I'm so happy she's back. We're excited to see what she's gonna do.
good. Now, how about your championship that you would want to win
Anywhere,
anywhere?
WWE Women's title.
So we got to see Gypsy Mac going up against Rhea Ripley.
Oh yes, that's the dream match right there.
And as a Las Vegan, what is your favorite restaurant in Las Vegas?
Oh, that's hard because I don't really go out and eat a lot here. I'm still discovering things. But my favorite sushi restaurant, I do have that one. It is Love Paradise. All you can eat sushi, $25
There you
during
go.
lunch. Amazing.
So you can touch base with Gypsy Mac on your next trip to Las Vegas because there's not a lot of all you can eat places in Las Vegas anymore if you're staying on the strip. You got to
Yeah,
get
it's
off a little
mostly
bit,
like
right?
sushi and like Asian food, which I'm cool with because that's one of my favorites. But I do miss
Hmm.
like the buffets and stuff that they used to have.
Yeah, no, the buffets went away with food courts now.
Yeah, that's very popular now is the food courts. I need to go check some of those out.
Well, and if you're going to be coming back to Las Vegas here after May, you'll be able to see Gypsy Mac, the Misfortune Teller, back in the ring, making
Yes.
her return May 4th with it's Party Hard Wrestling, right?
Yes.
Back in the ring after overcoming that injury, just to show one more time.
Ugh, the
And that it just
screw.
hurts. It just hurts looking at the picture.
Yeah, I want to make a t-shirt with my x-ray on it. I feel like that would be
Yeah,
kind of cool.
absolutely. Well, Gypsy, thanks a lot for joining us here on Wrestling Spotlight and the Fired Up Network. Really, really behind you all the way. I know how hard it is to come back from an injury and really wanted to get a chance to talk to you a little bit and see what the process was. And everybody here at Wrestling Spotlight wishes you well getting back up and into the ring.
Thank you for having me. It was great to have a platform to talk about me coming back and just having a little bit of fun. I miss the
Yeah,
wrestling world, you know.
no, we're all going to be glad to welcome you back in and take a look at that crystal ball and see what's coming up next.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us here at the ring.